myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It's me, Steve Wraith, here on a Thursday night, as always, with Supermac and Gibbo, better known as the Chris Wood Appreciation Society, after last week's show.
Well, we are. Absolutely. Yes, it's a fan club of two.
And you're no surprise to know that the first question that came in was about Chris Wood. But I just want to say, first of all, thank you to Sefton Mag for doing his little bit of inviting Northwest Mags. They've got their own WhatsApp group, I think, over to the channel. He's just mentioned it in the chat. Big thank you to you, mate. Nice to have you on board. Thanks for spreading the word in the northwest of England. Means a lot. And we hit 49,000 subscribers this week as well, which is quite phenomenal. I've been led to believe that's more than go to watch Sunderland now. Who now watch this channel. So that's fantastic. Good stuff.
It's the way it should be. It's the way it should be.
Let's hit 52,000 before the end of the season. That will be fantastic. Okay, the first question, I dread to ask it, Stephen Kennedy. I think Wood is an okay squad member, but question is finishing online and you get nothing but abuse. Stephen Kennedy then says, I've asked them, would you bet your life savings or your home on him getting double figures next season? And they don't reply. Why is that? And then he follows this up with, I'm not wanting to start another 35-minute Wood debate, mind you. Well, let's just start and finish with this. Look, Chris Wood, we did have a good chat about it last week. It was fantastic, and it got a lot of traction. A lot of people were very interested to hear what us three had to say, because I think it summed up the way the fan base feel about Chris Wood. We're another weekend, lads. We still haven't got that striker. Newcastle, of course, all over the back papers, the back page of some of the newspapers. Ludicrous. I'm not even going to name the paper that put this headline up that we're skint because of this deal that they've done with the bank. It's just standard practice, which every Premier League team does. But, you know, we are still being linked with strikers. The transfer window is open till the 1st of September. I still think we'll get one in. But the Chris Wood conundrum, you know, we put it to bed last week, didn't we, really, lads? You know, he's not going to be the first choice striker. He'll be a squad player unless we suddenly decide to sign two strikers and Chris Wood then goes out. He may go out, who knows? But, you know, I think we summed it up pretty well last week, didn't we, Malcolm?
I think so.
He's not going to get 10. He's not going to get 10 goals.
No. In fact, he won't get 10 shots in.
No, he probably won't. No, but he probably won't feature a great deal. But he could still do a job, Mal. I think where we finished last season was last week. Sorry, we know the situation with Chris Wood, and you know I put a good stern defence up for him last week. But he's not going to be playing lots of games. I don't think. I don't see it happening, Mal.
Well. Yeah. I hope it doesn't, because if it does, lads, if he does play a lot of games, it means Callum Wilson's injured, and we can't afford that.
And we haven't signed a striker, but I think we'll have one. And I agree with what Mitch has said this week. Mitch on Wednesday night, last night's show, he said, I think we'll have before the 1st of September. I think we'll have 4 in and 4 out. And I believe I think that's about right. I think we'll have another 4 off the payroll, whether they go on permanent or on season-long loans. And then I think we'll have another, maybe 3 or 4 in. You know, that's where I think we'll be. So we'll wait and see. It's not over until it's over. And the transfer window has already been busier than usual for us. And I think it'll continue to be busy, John. And I mean, lots of potential still to go on in this transfer window.
Sure.
And there's a long time to go. I think what's worried people is that we're suddenly starting playing a week Saturday and they're thinking, you know, let's not have an injury because we've got nobody in that stage. Because I would expect the players that are there now will form the team against Forest, because it would be very difficult to bring somebody in and put them straight into the team. But yes, I think we will sign before September the 1st. I think we've got to sign before September the 1st as far as the centre forward's concerned. Other positions might be the icing on the cake. We would look at a right winger, we could look at midfield, etc., etc. But we need a centre forward in by September the 1st. I think that if there's no question about that at all. And we need him to be more successful than Chris Wood has been, because however successful he's been in open play, and a lot of supporters support him in what he did during the unbeaten run, etc. I don't attribute that much to him for that run. But we need goals up top. And if Callum Wilson goes out the side, which is the only way Chris would start, then where's our goals coming from? We've got to hope that Bruno or Willock discovers what he had the season before last. Otherwise, where do our goals come from? We've got to get a striker in. But yes, time's on our side. And it remains, I think it hit the club that they didn't get a ticket in from France, because he was ideal for them. He was 19, he was the right age, he had a lot going for him, he would accept the bench and coming on. And I think he ticked all the boxes. And once he was out of the running, having gone to Paris Saint-Germain, it's become a totally new ballgame.
Mal, your thoughts?
I really do believe that we need to get somebody in. We can't rely on either of the forwards. One is it gets injured too easily and is out for long spells, and the other guy cannot score goals. And I think that's a bit of a desperate situation, to be honest. The one thing that if you look at all of the successful sides in the Premiership, they've all got that one man up front who will guarantee you goals.
I mean, we have
that
talked
brings success.
Yeah, we've talked, Malcolm. When I say we, obviously Eddie has talked about, well, we've got other players that can play there, and he named Joe Linton and Saint-Maximin, but we don't want to go down that route. Joe Linton's doing very, very well where he is, superbly well where he is. He didn't as a centre forward, so we don't want to put those doubts back in his mind by playing him there. And Saint-Maximin is not a through-the-middle striker. It's debatable exactly what he is and how potent he is, but he's not. So yeah, it's. I think it's the one thing, guys, that stands out as a glaring. If we get a centre forward, I'll be happy to have also got a winger and perhaps another position, as Steve was saying, perhaps three. That would be marvellous. But I do want a centre forward, and if we don't have one, I'll be uneasy. And also, heaven forbid, we've got to have Callum Wilson stay fit during the month of August, because if we don't have a centre forward then, following Nottingham Forest, we've got Liverpool and Manchester City to come before the transfer window shuts. So we've got to, we can't write off those early games. We've got to have cover there. If Callum Wilson plays all the time, then the situation's a lot easier. But would you gamble on that?
Yeah, and it is a gamble.
Yeah.
It really is. That's the problem. And if the way I've always looked at it is that the goals you get from your forwards, they basically get you out of the relegation area over the season. What you get then from midfield can get you up near to those European positions, and then the goals that come from defenders, that's where you can get that bit of glory, because the total then starts to go up to the kind of area where you've got every chance, you're challenging for trophies. Now, it might sound a bit basic, but if you look at the records over years and decades, that's how it works. And if your forwards aren't getting you clear of relegation come the end of the season, if their goals aren't picking up enough points, then the midfield are having to jump in to do what the forwards do. And so all of a sudden, you're up against a brick wall. Goals take the pressure off.
We were never, Malcolm, Newcastle historically, and this is just backing up what you said there. We've never looked in relegation trouble when we've had Alan Shearer, Malcolm MacDonald, Jackie Milburn, Les Ferdinand, Andy Cole playing centre forward, because their goals took away all that fear. You don't go
That's
down.
exactly the point that I'm trying to get over. Yes.
Yeah, you don't go down with people like that scoring the goals to score. You go down when your centre forward is scoring 2 or 6 or 7 or 8. You don't automatically go down then, but you're in danger. So yeah, we've got to do something about it. I think we all know that, guys, and we've discussed it many times. And I just get twitchy because, as Steve said, time is very much still on our side, because we're not into August yet, and we've got all of August. But I don't want to go too long. I'll feel happier once the centre forward's in the nest.
Sure.
And Bill says, I don't think we need to worry about signings at the moment. They'll arrive when the club wants them.
I don't think so, because what you've got to remember is that there's more time to get things organised when the season actually starts, because it's all been so frenetic, organising pre-season training, organising trips away, organising tournaments at St James Park, and getting the players that are there at Newcastle, getting them fit, ready for the start of the season. Once the season starts, it tends to calm down a bit, and the football director can then speak with a manager. They can just walk along the corridor and go into the offices. That hasn't been able to happen so far through
the interesting
summer.
thing, what that guy was saying, and I do take the point that he's making, calm down, guys, we've still got a month to go, signings will happen. But they don't happen when the club want them to happen. The club wanted it to happen within Tiki all January and all the beginning of this window, and that now isn't happening. And the same's happened with other centre forwards. The reality is that the most difficult people to sign are centre forwards, especially goal-scoring centre forwards. By that, I mean somebody with already got a track record. They're the difficulty. They're the hard guys to get, either cost a fortune or other clubs that can offer more than us in Champions League, European football, etc. It becomes difficult. So it is difficult, but Newcastle are working hugely at it, and time is on our side. But time is only on our side, until Callum Wilson gets injured. And heaven forbid he gets crocked against Nottingham Forest on the opening day, because then time is not on our side. So it's one of those situations. But I'm certainly not panicking at this situation, at this moment in time. But I will be a darn sight happier after that one hole in the wall has been plugged.
Lots of questions coming in, lots of opinions. The one that everyone seems to be talking about, there's two that everybody seems to be talking about. First of all, Tom Dixon came in with this. He says, Malcolm and John, what's your thoughts on Miggy Almiron so far during pre-season? I'm hoping he continues his great form. Lots of other people seem to agree. There was a question and a comment about him as well. Here, Miggy's eyebrows saying, with Miggy being in superb pre-season form, do you think the attention now switches to a left-sided attacking midfielder? Lots of praise for Almiron. And I mean, look, pre-season's pre-season. Scoring in pre-season doesn't really matter, as not scoring in pre-season doesn't really matter either. Some Monkey Pursuit says, Supermac and Gibbo were laughing at people praising Miggy for scoring 2 against Gateshead because of the level opposition, which is fair. But 2 against the champions of Portugal, is he ready to kick on? Maybe a right winger isn't a priority as we thought. He does need to do the business in the Premier League, though, of course. So lots of praise for Almiron, Malcolm. What's your take on him? And I did go on record a couple of months back and said I think he would be a one to watch under Howe, especially after the way he finished last season. I think he could do a little bit of a Perez, if you like.
Yeah, well, I await seeing him do it. And with bated breath as well. I can't see that change in him happening, because he's a blind alley runner, and you can't suddenly turn that around on its head and become a dangerous goal scorer. So, yeah, okay, you got two against Benfica away from home. Very good, very good. But is he going to be able to do that against the Liverpools and the Manchester Cities in the Premier League? And, well, I have my doubts. I hope he does. I really hope he does, because the fella's quick, he's lively, he's got an awful lot going for him, but it's just sticking the ball in the net that has become a major headache for him.
Gibbo, Almiron, he's always played with a smile on his face. He's been a very, very busy player. Very, we've never criticised his effort, but he's always lacked that killer touch. We've seen flashes of it. We saw a wonderful winning goal last season. There's always been something about him, but ultimately, he could just save us a few quid if he seems to play well with Bruno, Gibbo.
Well, what we're looking for here, what fans are looking for here, is that they've seen the vast, unexpected improvements in other Newcastle players under Eddie Howe. Now, the spectacular one is obviously Joe Linton, who went from a £40 million flop to a £40 million hero. That was all to do with a change of position, of course. But we've also seen Emil Kraft look a totally different player under him. Shelby, when Eddie Howe first come, Shaw, who was a walking mistake under Bruce, has looked a ball-playing defender under Howe. So this stardust that Eddie seems to carry in his inside pocket, everybody's waiting for him to sprinkle it on the head of whoever, and sprinkle it on the head of Saint-Maximin, and he suddenly starts doing these tricks and putting the ball in the net. Has he already sprinkled it on the head of Almiron? Fans are putting a lot of credence in what Eddie is capable of doing. And he does do that sort of thing. There's no question. And one of the great things he does with players is build up their confidence. And that is very necessary. You look at Joe Linton, the centre forward, and you look at Joe Linton, the midfield player. And the greatest difference is the sky-high confidence he has now. Coming back to Almiron, I think this is a make or break season for him, without a shadow of doubt. He's now been here 3.5 seasons and has produced an awful lot of promise in little else. Last season, he scored a worldie, which, we looked at what he scored against Benfica, but the worldie was the only goal he got all season, and he had no assists. He has got to, and there's a huge difference between delivering pre-season in friendlies and when the Benfica game was anything but a friendly. They made it hugely competitive, and we reacted. I mean, Bruno and Joe Linton were walking a disciplinary line by wedging the tackles in return for what Benfica were doing. So it wasn't a friendly in essence, but we want to see Miggy do what he did against Benfica. Against Gateshead, if he can't do it, he may as well go back to Paraguay. And I'm a big lover of Gateshead because it's my old club, but the difference in class is enormous. What he did against Benfica was different. But if you watch the games, the space he was given against Benfica, if we think Manchester City and Liverpool in the first month of the season will give them that space, we've got another thing coming. I hope that he continues in that form because he's a lovable guy, and also we need every player to step up and improve 10%. But I've got to see it. I'm waiting to see it. For 3.5 years, I've been sort of expecting it because he's quick, because he runs, because he's so enthusiastic, because he smiles. We've been hanging on promises for 3.5 years. I want those promises to produce fruition, and not in pre-season when the chips are down. So I'm not saying right now he's the next genius off the assembly line and we don't need a right winger. far from it. Let him start to do the business against Nottingham Forest and continue it until the transfer window is closed. He needs that, because if he goes back to the old Miggy, at the end of this season, he will be finished here. So he can either be a star or he can be finished. Over to you, Miggy.
Exactly, over to Miggy. Lots of people talking about the centre half position as well. With regards to the backup there, the fact that Lascelles didn't cover himself in glory in the appearances that he's had. Of course, he was handed the captain's armband as well. So what's your take on that, Mal, the centre half position? We brought Sven Botman in, one of the players we wanted in January. Finally got him in this transfer window.
Yeah.
We got Dan Burn, of course, in January. One would imagine those two centre halves are fairly nailed on. You've got Shaw, you've got Fernandez, you've got Lascelles. Have we got enough in that area?
I think we have, yes. But I still stand by my feeling that Lascelles is a liability. I don't have any faith in him, and watching him, he gives me the impression he hasn't got faith in himself. That he wants to have fellow centre halves covering him, and that tells me that he's concerned that he's going to be making mistakes. I think obviously Botman and Byrne are going to be the first choice centre halves, and I think that they will be able to make a really good partnership and have confidence in each other. And that's what Lascelles lacks. He hasn't got the confidence in himself, and therefore people don't have confidence in him. And the whole thing starts to become a liability. And it's all very well people saying, oh, yeah, but he's a really good club captain. I want more than that, I'm afraid. I want a lot more than that. There's other players who play brilliantly and will make good captains. Trippier for one. So if I were Eddie Howe, to be quite honest, I would quite happily move Lascelles on.
What's your thoughts on that, John?
Interesting. When Botman first signed for Newcastle, I was one of the first people to write, not because I wrote it straight away, that he's predominantly a left footer, and so is Byrne. But if we regularly team right footers together in a football team, why can't you play two left footers together, i.e. both Byrne and Botman as your two centre halves? Because if you quite often, many times in football, two right footers are partners. So why can't two left footers be partners? And I said that, and all fans have jumped on that because, not because I said it, but because they love Byrne. They love Byrne from last season, heart the size of a frying pan, the size of Gray's Monument, Geordie, everything to like, and he's very popular. And Botman is a good signing. But you know what intrigues me? And it's just a thought deep down, because I always say it does, at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter what we think. The only thing that matters is what Eddie Howe thinks, because he picks the team. Now, the interesting thing is that in the last 48 hours, Botman has come out and said, my favourite position is definitely playing on the left. I'm left-footed. I'm predominantly left-footed. I play on the left. Yes, I've played on the right before, but it's not by choice. And people say there's no difference between being the right-sided centre-half and the left-sided centre-half. Yes, there is. There's a huge difference. This is what he's saying. There's a huge difference. And I don't necessarily like playing on the right. And when I played on the right for Newcastle and won the pre-season friendlies, I found it very, very different. Now, if you follow that thinking and you think that Howe spent 30 million on him, I think there's a 5% chance I'm just trying to second guess how that he'll come out with Shaw and Botman on the opening day of the season against Spurs.
Mark Byers agrees with you. Botman and Shaw will be the starting pair.
Yeah, I believe that is a great possibility rather than. And then if that's so, I am intrigued, because I'm intrigued as to why, after Byrne just joined us in January, you buy another left-sided centre half effectively to take his place. It's obvious that Botman doesn't like playing right side. I can't see Byrne playing right side under any circumstances whatsoever. So because he plays either left side or left back, which he did for Brighton on occasions. So I'm fascinated. I would still have gone down the route of it being Botman and Byrne, which is what I said from day one. But I've got a feeling, because of what Botman feels about the position, etc., and he will have talked about it to his manager before he signed, the same as Pope will have talked to the manager that he's the number one keeper before he would agree to sign. I've got a 10% feeling that we might go Shaw and Botman on the opening day, and that'll be intriguing, because where's Byrne after that? And the simple answer is that it's a squad game, not a team game, and everybody's going to get a lot of chances over a whole season. But it's fascinating, and I don't think it's quite as clear-cut as we all think it is.
No, definitely not. It's a massive talking point. Everyone's talking about it. Michael says it's a massive difference. John's right. Our best pairing is Shaw and Botman. Byrne covers for Botman. The big concern is who covers for Shaw, who is not shy of an injury. Very, very true. Newcastle just announced that both friendlies this weekend will be on NUFC's website, which is great. So it'll be on the TV channel, NUFC TV, which is absolutely great for those of you who haven't purchased tickets or who live too far away to come to the game. So good news again from Newcastle. Big shout out, as always, to our sponsors. Spider Miner, worldwide coverage from the lads, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913 897245, and a Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Now their shop is open on Nunn Street, thanks to Away Day Clothing, and thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables, snooker tables and walls in Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's handmade sauces in Cumbria, and you can find them at mrvickys.co.uk or by phoning 01768 210 102. Big shout out as well to Media Arts for all the help on the video side of things. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the Newcastle NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right hand corner. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. And that usually goes up 24 hours after the show is complete. Media Arts are closed for a couple of weeks, so that has taken a little bit of time, but he has added a few of those podcasts. So if you are used to listening to the show as a podcast, I think he's updated quite a few over the last 24 hours, despite him being on holiday. So you've got a little bit to listen to there. If you want to become a member, click join underneath the video or put your smartphone over the top of the QR code and it'll take you straight to the membership pack. If you do it that way, you can get a cup, a pen, a scarf and a membership card and entry into the monthly draw. We also send you a free car sticker if you subscribe. Just email john@nufcmatters.com to get that. And please make donations to the food bank, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. The match day bucket is virtual and you can make a donation 365 days of the year. Don't forget as well, Gibbo is on with Frank Clark, Monday the 5th of December, 2022, Tynemouth Surf Cafe. Get yourself onto their website to get the last remaining tickets for that. The NUFC Matters Super 6 score predictor is on the horizon. Join the Matters gang, enter into our own league, £10 per entry of the season, cash prize winner every month, exclusive manager of the month t-shirt, and a cash prize for the overall season winner. Trophy of Manager of the Year t-shirt. Sign up now at nufcmatters.com. And the Peter Beardsley Soccer School is had a great week this week, and even had a new goalkeeper in this week. John from QTech, he says, can I just say, after being lucky enough to stand in as a one-armed centre-back on Peter Beardsley's side today, even at 61, the man is still a genius. Not one straight pass in an hour. I won't be able to walk tomorrow, John says, but I wouldn't swap it for the world. But yeah, been a big success. It's been fully booked all week, and why shouldn't it be? True legend of Newcastle United, a true legend of the game, and a big shout out to Peter Beardsley and everybody who's attended that. I think everyone's had a fantastic time. Okay, back to the comments, and still a few questions that we need to touch on. Paul says, hi lads, do you think there was ever a plan B when we missed out on Ekitike? Was there a plan B, Malcolm? It doesn't really look like it.
Well, it certainly doesn't seem as if there was for the moment, but there is still, as we said earlier in the programme, there's still a long way to go before the time's up on the window. So we shall see. Things will happen. Of that, I'm very, very sure.
I don't know that there was. I honestly believe that they thought, patience is golden. If we hang in, if we're persistent, if we're loyal, if we prove we really want the guy will eventually come. And that proved successful with Botman, who we were in for in January, who we were in for again at the beginning of this summer. AC Milan were mentioned, big hitters, etc. We stuck in, and we got him. It didn't work with the kid. The kid was obviously touting himself for Paris Saint-Germain all the while. We thought we'd get him, and he fitted the identical picture. The situation facing Newcastle now is very stark because you're going at the two ends, age-wise, of the spectrum. Ideally, Newcastle want is centre forward who is 19, 20, 21 with bags of potential, long-term future here, sit on the bench, go in and eventually take over from Wilson. You go the other end of the criteria, you spend big money on an established centre forward and he wants to play from the start. And unless they go to a two up top, which Eddie doesn't want to, then he can't play from the start because there's no question that Eddie will start with Wilson when Wilson's fit and ready to go. So there's a problem. If you buy a £40 million centre forward, you would know, Malcolm, he ain't going to sit on the bench, mind, and say, that's okay, I'll wait till Wilson's injured. He's going to come if he starts. Then your only option is you take a 32-year-old on loan before September the 1st, who might be willing, depending if he's on the other side of the hill slightly, he might be willing to do that. There's a real problem for Newcastle, which I don't think they expected to have to face after Enrique, and they're having to face it now.
Yeah, the agent had a lot to do with it, John, as somebody's rightly pointed out. And Stephen Nutkin also says there's no coincidence that since the arrival of Dan Ashworth, the gossip doors have been firmly shut, and rightly so.
The agent's been was an absolute disaster for us. There's absolutely no question that he didn't want it to happen to Newcastle for whatever reason. Perhaps his take, he wasn't going to get enough dough, etc., etc. But he was a problem. He could have pushed that deal over the line way before now. And did you notice the relief from the agent when Paris Saint-Germain eventually did the deal? He actually went on record and said, thanks very much to the player for sticking with me, etc., etc. I got you over the line in the end. So in other words, there was that feeling there between agent and player. Are we gambling too much and it can all go pear-shaped and I'll end up with nowhere to go? The agent wasn't a help to us. And the agents in football are a massive problem because they play their angles and they want an absolute fortune. Agents these days are as rich as footballers because they've got more than one footballer, and what they do is sell all the players if they can in a close season and make millions out of that. There is a fortune to be made. They're the Colonel Parker football who made a fortune out of Elvis. It's better now not to be Elvis, to be Colonel Parker. And that's what this lot are doing.
Dave asked this question earlier. He says, what do you think of Richie playing on the right wing and Murphy on the left, both playing out of position?
Well, it doesn't make a great deal of sense to me. Murphy in particular, he's a terrific crosser of the ball. Well, they both are, but they need to be on their favourite sides. And you're not going to get crosses for them on the opposite sides because they're always going to have to cut back onto their good foot. It loses time, it loses space, and the ball is then coming in, curling towards the goalkeeper, and it makes the goalkeeper favourite in so many instances. So no, I don't see the sense of it. What you want are crosses coming in, which are curling away from the goalkeeper, but they're curling right into the centre forward's run.
Gibbo, Richie's got to be one of those on the list, hasn't he? Gibbo,
I was going to say, I can follow all that, Steve, that Malcolm says, and Malcolm knows more than anybody what you want from a winger, having been a centre forward of his calibre himself. There seems to be a situation in modern football where quite often, and not just at Newcastle, they play the wingers the wrong way round and have them cut in instead of them going wide towards the corner flag and whipping in crosses. They have them check in on the other foot and cut inside. I'm not a great believer in that, but despite what Malcolm says about Murphy, and I do respect that, and I do think he crosses a magnificent ball, I've got to be truthful. If I think about Murphy and Richie, I think Newcastle United ought to buy a winger because I don't think they're good enough for where Newcastle are going, where you are hope to be going. I think if we talk about those two, we're in trouble.
Billy Trey says, no cross is good when Chris Wood is the target. Don't start. Michael says, is ASM undroppable if we don't make any more signings? And is Fraser on the left and Miggy on the right not our best option? And ASM is an impact sub, Malcolm.
I see the strength of the argument here. Personally, I would hope sincerely that ASM isn't undroppable, as the first part of that text is asking.
Malcolm, there's people within St. James's Park tell me privately that if they could get anywhere near 40 million for
they'd let him go.
They would book the taxi and drive them down themselves.
Yeah.
To London, be it Chelsea or Spurs.
Yes.
The difficulty is they mightn't get enough money to justify that. And,
John,
by the way, when he doesn't go by September the 1st, we will be fed the quotes, we never wanted this man to go, we're going to build a team around him.
Yeah.
They would drive him down there. If they could get that money, they would drive him down to London as chauffeurs tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Lots of questions. Let's see what else can be said from this. Mark Patterson says there, hi Steve, Malcolm and Gibbo. Bit of a history lesson from the two legends, if possible. I wondered where Malcolm trained as an NUFC player and if any of the lads had any great stories from back in the day. So Mark asks a question about training there, Malcolm.
We trained on the on what was the old cricket ground. Oh dear.
Vickers Armstrong's at Benwell, Malcolm, was it?
No.
No, that was after you. That was after you.
It was the old Benwell Cricket Club. They moved to a ground on the main road, on the West Road.
Yes.
And it sort of laid somewhat back from there. It was the old Benwell Cricket Club that we trained on, and it had a cricket pavilion, and it wasn't suitable at all for sort of like 30 odd professional footballers. being divided into two small dressing rooms. The baths and showers were somewhat insufficient, but that was Newcastle at the time, and we just got on with it. And the wind could blow up there as well. By heavens, it could.
I remember, Malcolm. I remember before you come and joined us back in the 60s when Joe Harvey took over. They used to train on the car park at St James's, and then go in the gym, which was the old offices when you were there at St James's.
Yeah.
And can you imagine people like Jimmy Schooler coming in and wedging you in a tackle on the car park at St James's? I mean, it makes your eyes water just thinking about it, doesn't it? But I mean,
it does.
That's what they used to do.
It really does.
Incredible. As for daft stories, and they're always very difficult to think about off the spur of the moment when you haven't had time to think about it. But I mean, one of the wonderful things I loved when Joe Harvey came to Newcastle, we were in desperate trouble. We were going nowhere fast. We're in the second division. We were full of old stars who were has-beens and not enough good kids coming through. And he had to reorganise the whole of the club very, very quickly. And he built very, very quickly his first side of his three sides. He built three sides magnificently. He built the side that were second division champions. He built the European Fairs Cup winning side, and he built Malcolm's side that went to the 74 FA Cup final. He did brilliantly. But when he built his first side round Anderson, McGrath and Hiley, the famous halfback line at Newcastle, and Dave Hilly, who was still around with us today, Superman, was playing up front. Cassius, which was Ron McGarry, was the centre forward, and they won promotion as champions into the top flight. In the first game back in the top flight, Newcastle were at home, and Joe was in the dressing room, and the players were a bit nervous and bouncing the ball and doing everything and chatting to each other. And the buzzer went, time for it to go out. So Moncur picked up the ball, and the players got there, and Moncur said, "Right, lads, let's get out there." And Joe said, just as Moncur got the door, Joe said, "Wait a minute, lads, wait a minute." And Monk said, "Oh, I thought, here's going to be the pearl of wisdom, what we're going to do to make certain we'll win today. And it's just the last word that's going to open up the door and take all the blinkers off our eyes, and we're going to go out there and win." And Joe said, "I just want to say, lads, whatever happens, don't let them panic you into playing football." And he was really having a bit of fun, and it broke the ice and broke the nervousness completely. And Newcastle went out and did well. But that was Joe. Whatever you do, don't let them panic you into playing football. And as Malcolm would know, having Joe many, many times, a tactician he was not, but an eye for talent and buying in the transfer market he was, and a man manager he was, but a tactician, not Joe's strength.
Rachel says, do you think we'll see any immediate changes with Darren Neill's taking his position as of Monday, Malcolm?
No, I don't think so. We won't see immediate changes. No, he'll come in and look to get things organised so that he can work to the best of his ability.
Yeah. Gibbo, one for you from Josh. He just wants to know any news from John Joe Shelby, because obviously he went off injured.
Yeah. On that other point, just before we get on to John Joe, it's almost impossible to have an immediate thing. But you know what I think he'll be wonderful at, and that is the link up with the fans. The great thing he was about at Atlanta was the liaison between the club and the fans. He went out to fan bases. He drummed up. They had the best support in American soccer because he did that brilliantly. I mean, he's got many other attributes that's necessary, but the link. But one of the things that would attract them to Newcastle is the 50,000 wall flags atmosphere on the day, that's his sort of club. That is what he created at Atlanta, and he'll be terrific at pushing that forward. As far as John Joe's concerned, once you have a hamstring problem, you're not going to play immediately. I'll be staggered if he plays in either of the two games this weekend, which is Friday night and Saturday afternoon. Nobody will play in both games because they're too close to one another. They're both within 24 hours. He'll feel two totally separate sides, as he did out at Benfica when he played 11 in the first half and a totally different 11 in the second half. He will do that in these two games. I'll be amazed if John Joe takes part in that. And if he doesn't take part in that, I think that will rule him out of starting against Forest. He may make the bench, he may not. But as Malcolm knows, as you know, Steve, because we've all been around long enough, when you have a hamstring problem, you don't play 2 days later.
No, of course you don't.
No,
of course
you
you
don't.
don't. I think you mean Jack Grealish, JCP Motor Centre. I think something's the predictive text doesn't work, but I get your feeling. Yeah, I think Almiron's been spurred on by Eddie Howe, mate, and by Bruno's arrival, because Bruno's made him. He's allowed him to come into the game. He's given him a bit of freedom, and there's direction there from Howe. I think we'll see a new player in Almiron. We did touch on that a little bit earlier.
I certainly hope so, Steve.
Trippier had a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah,
mate.
Trippier as well. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
There's there'll be some players that are going to massively benefit. It's part and parcel of football.
Sure, he talks to the guys in front and around him all of the time. He's a great communicator, but at the same time, what he's actually saying is so constructive and helpful. And so if Almiron is listening, Trippier, maybe he can seriously turn the fella around, and where we'll see a positive Almiron instead of the blind alley runner that he's been.
Yeah, and that's what he's been. There's no doubt about that. From our perspective,
I'm still waiting to see it. I want to see it on match days. I'm not having a go at Miggy at all, but I need to see positive proof, and I don't need to see it pre-season. I need to see it when it matters.
John, over my years in football, it is amazing how many players shine in pre-season friendlies and then crumble when the season starts.
Yeah.
But when the pressure's on, they can't take it.
Big thank you to DS for becoming a member. I just want to ask the question. I can't remember who asked it now. Somebody was asking Malcolm about Notts Forest and just what we thought about the money that they were spending. I'll give my opinion on that. There's always one team that comes up from the Championship that spends an absolutely ludicrous amount of money and then goes straight back down.
Fulham did that, Steve. And Aston Villa almost did that. They had a rescue it on the last day.
Yeah, it was about two summers ago, wasn't it, John? I think the last time that they came up, and they spent, I think it was £111 million.
This is
Fulham. And they went straight down. And
correct. In the following season, Aston Villa did the same.
Yeah, I stay in contact with a number of people down there. My old captain, for one, Les Strong, and he's involved at the club. And he said we spent 110 million. He said, and nothing changed on the pitch, nothing at all. No increase in talent or quality or standards. Nothing.
What I find interesting over what Forest have done, and they've got 11 in now, and they're busy doing a deal for a 12th. That is enormous turnover. Now, I know that when they come up, they had a lot of players on loan, like the Middlesbrough lad that signed for Spurs, etc., and they were going to lose them. So they had to build a new side. But if you look at who they brought in, outside of the two guys who were at Manchester United last season, Henderson, the goalkeeper, who's on loan, and Jesse Lingard, who got a free. And they have Premier League experience. The rest of the players they've signed are known to the Premier League and unknown to us. They're not top-class, already established players. So there's question marks against them. A couple of them might turn out to be superstars. but 3 or 4 might well fall by the roadside. And as for Lingard, he's just a mercenary. He's there for the money. If he had had any ambition, he would have gone to West Ham, or he would have gone to us if we continued again, because West Ham are at the right end of the table. But you don't want to go to West Ham, who are in the top 7, but you prefer to go to Nottingham Forest and join the relegation fight. Don't make me smile. I've got a split lip.
Paula says it's great to see Everton buying the Burnley team to hopefully ensure the relegation this year. That made us it did make us laugh. Trilist says George Cook at NUFC told to bring own socks. His club are having issues with a kit supplier. What a nightmare this whole Castore thing's been from start to finish. Really, really has. Michael asks Malcolm, what annoys Malcolm the most about footballers of today? What does he wish he had the benefit of back then that the modern players have now? Good question.
Yes, it is. What I think annoys me is the inability of so many footballers to actually shoot. That shooting, it's quite simple as long as you're facing the right way. You go half a yard to one side and shoot around the defender, and there are an awful lot of players who just don't seem to have that ability. I think there was a greater goal scoring ability around sides back in the 70s than there is now. It all of a sudden, last season, it was quite thrilling when we saw Trippier sticking a number of goals in, and it was, wow, we've got a goal scoring right back, for heaven's sake, which was unheard of. I've always been of the feeling that if there is a chance to shoot, don't miss it. Take the chance. And I see too many players these days that they want to be absolutely 100% sure. Shooting can't be like that. You have to take the chance. And I think a lot of players these days are afraid of actually missing the target. They're afraid of missing, and therefore they stop shooting. Whereas if you're going to score goals, you have to miss. That's how the game works. If you're going to score goals, you have to miss. So get used to missing, and you work at decreasing the misses and increasing the shots on target.
You once wrote a book called Never Afraid to Miss. Remember that, Malcolm?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Which is what it's about.
And I see far too many players who are afraid to miss. And they have a shot, it goes well wide, and you don't see them shoot again for 3 months.
Mr. Anderson says, hi, gents. I was hoping to get all three of your opinions on how important it is to have a new striker in and ready working in pre-season so we can get familiar with where he is and the players. I would say it was really important. I've got to be perfectly honest. Bringing any player in, towards the back end of the transfer window is obviously going to mean that they're not maybe as fit as Eddie Howe wants them. And they've got to get used to playing with the team. But I might be wrong here, Malcolm, but I would imagine, if you're a good goal grabber, as long as the service is good, you should be able to stick the ball in the onion bag. It might be a bit easier. What's your take?
Yeah. That's absolutely right, Steve. That it always helps to go through the pre-season with all your new teammates and get to know them in the pre-season matches. But but it's better to get the right player and miss the pre-season with him. If it comes down to signing him on August the 31st, then so be it. you know. But it's more important to get the right player than anything else.
I think that's absolutely right. But I think in a perfect world, and there's almost not such a thing, you want your players in early, like we get Target in, like we get Pope in, like we get Botman in, so they play the preseason, they play the games they've played, they play in one of these 2 games this weekend, and they get to know their teammates. And that's what we're saying. There is another month of the season to go to buy a centre forward. Let's not panic. It can happen. But in an ideal world, you got your player in early, so everybody knows how to play with each other, and they get the feeling right. If you remember 1 year ago, after Joe Willock had scored all those goals on loan, we signed Willock full time virtually on the last day before the window closed. It was, I think it was on the 31st. We signed Joe Willock. He hadn't trained properly with Arsenal. He hadn't been taking part in their pre-season because he wasn't going to be in the team. And he come up here. He ends up with 2 goals out of 29. He come up here. He wasn't fit. He wasn't sharp. He wasn't right. And of course, we then put him out in the sticks. So he was so lonely. It was absolutely untrue. But it is a lot better. I've always thought, I can understand how loan players only go out at the end of the transfer window, because the club that's going to loan them is waiting to see whether they're going to be kept in the club or they're going to be put out for loan. The thing that's been happening with Elliot Anderson, who I think is going to stay with us now, and good, that's terrific. But in an ideal world, you want your centre forward in before now. He's not come in by now, so still let's have him in the next month, but it's not as ideal as it would have been.
Couple of minutes left. Just want to, I'm not sure whether you know the news, Malcolm, but Terry Neill has passed away at the age of 80.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Good heavens.
Breaking news. Obviously, the Northern Irishman played over 270 times for Arsenal. Took on the captain's armband at the age of 20. Former centre-half, went on to manage Arsenal, of course, for 7 years, starting in 1976 after he crossed the great divide, I guess, between Arsenal and Spurs. He guided Arsenal to 3 straight FA Cup finals, and he saw the side lift the trophy in 1979 with that famous win over Manchester United 3-2. But very sad news breaking them.
Very sad. Yeah, I knew Terry. I knew him very well. I knew him as an opponent, and then and that was both at club level and international level. And then I knew him as the manager at Arsenal when I signed there. And he was a terrific fella, lovely fella, and had a great personality about him. That's really sad. Yeah. Really, really sad. Yeah.
We'll finish up with this.
And he always looked so fit, you know. So I saw him down at an Arsenal match. Oh, that was about 3 years ago, and he looked absolutely gloriously well. So I'm really sad to hear that sad news.
Finish up with this question then, because it goes back to yesteryear. Robert Dowland says, "Hi lads, what does Supermac think of the diving today compared to the Leeds tackles like Bremner and Charlton? How would they do in the old days?" How would ASM do in the 1970s, man?
I know, but the game changes, times change, and players adapt to the style of refereeing, which the refereeing today is very, very different to what I knew and understood when I was playing. And players, they react to how they see the rules being interpreted, what they can get away with referees and what have you. And so diving is something that sneaks in. There's always been diving. Manchester City, for heaven's sake, Rodney Marsh, he was forever trying it on.
Franny Lee, Malcolm. Franny Lee.
And Franny Lee as well. John, in my first season with Newcastle, I finished second highest goal scorer in the first division. I would have been top if it hadn't been for the 17 penalties that Franny Lee had.
Franny got. Well, he was known as Lee 110, wasn't he? He was the Chinese centre forward Lee 110 when he played.
Great show, great hour as always with me two best mates at Newcastle United. Malcolm, John, pleasure as always, lads. Look forward to seeing you next Thursday when we will be looking ahead to Newcastle's first game.
Indeed, fabulous.
We will. About time too.
Keep
Great
the faith,
stuff, lads.
guys.
Take care.
Keep the faith. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.